Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online, and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. Our interview with Jason Les and Riot is coming up in just a few hours time, but Anthony Power and I figured we should jump on and update you guys on a few of the production results that have come out today in relation to September numbers. In addition to that, we've got a few key press releases that we haven't yet discussed on the program, so a lot to cover in today's video. Before we get into it though, take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a big help and really gets this content out to other people who may find interest. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on September results so far, how you're feeling about the sector as a whole, and your price target for Bitcoin in the final few months of 2024. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so there we have it. Thursday morning, a choppy trading session across the market in the Bitcoin mining sector. Approximately half the miners up, half the miners down, Anthony. Very similar to what we saw yesterday. However, today we did receive a number of September production reports from the miners and some additional press releases, which we wanted to cover in today's video. So a lot to go through. I think 7 companies in total, Anthony. We've got Jason Les on in a few hours time, so we won't go into detail on the Riot production report, but we can give you guys some of the highlights as it was a very strong month for the team. So we'll start off maybe with Bitdeer, Anthony. Came out with their results for the month of September. Fair results in terms of Bitcoin mining, but some key updates in terms of their Seal Miner technology roadmap and their HPC endeavors, really feeling like that tier 3 data center at their location or property is now feasible based on some of the studies they've done. So some key takeaways in the production or operational report, and curious to get your thoughts there.
Yeah, so a good update from Bitdeer, 164 Bitcoin mined during the month of September. And that's with an increased self-mining hash rate at 8.1 currently. It was 7.8. And we do know that they plan to have over 11, probably close to 11.5 exahash in terms of self-mining by the end of the year. And this will be when the Seal Miner A1 which they're building in-house, is ready. And that's scheduled to complete in Q4 of which we're in at the moment. So in its next 3 months, an additional 3.4 exahash. They've also talked about the Seal 2 miner, which will be, hopefully progressing now in a testing phase now and be ready for mass production, starting to be scheduled in November 24th. So that's 2 separate mining rigs in production during Q4. So that'll get them some serious reduction in their current fleet efficiency, which is at the moment one of the sort of like lowest efficiencies of all the mining companies. So it's in excess of 30, and we talk about a couple of miners now who are sub or very close to sub 20. So IREN are already at 18. Going on to 17 joules a terahash, and CleanSpark are also around about the close to the 20 mark, as are Bitfarms with 21. So these new machines by Bitdeer will be more than welcome when they start arriving during Q4 and into next year, as they have massive expansion plans for the following year at a number of their sites.
Yeah, now they also gave some commentary around the HPC, Anthony. So I'm curious there because that was quite bullish in my perspective, basically going out and taking a look at their sites or assessing their portfolio and determining based on a number of key factors, access to infrastructure, power, fiber, that they can meet the tier 3 data requirements. This is obviously a big step in the right direction for Bitdeer. If and when they do pursue that HPC AI division, hey?
Absolutely. We've seen a number of miners start moving towards HPC in a relatively big way. We know that Bitdeer had their pilot HPC data center in Singapore itself, and now it looks like they're going to be rolling out that service at other facilities. They're even launching a pilot H100 in Canada, and expanding it further and further. I mean, bear in mind they're operating at the moment with about 895 megawatts of energy, but they've also got an additional 1.6 or in excess of 1.6 gigawatts of energy at a number of sites that are coming online in 2025, going into 2026. So they've got plenty of opportunity to grow a HPC business while still growing their Bitcoin mining business. So yeah, so it's really in-depth update from Bitdeer, and well worth spending a few minutes going through that update and looking at the various site updates that they have from the Rockdale facility, from the Tidal facility in Norway, the Massillon facility in Ohio, and again the 500 megawatt facility in Bhutan as well, where civil works are expected to be completed by September 2024. The foundations will be completed in phase, with the last expected to be completed in February 2025. So with the construction being ready by the end of 2025, they'll be starting to order their transformers and electrical equipment ready for delivery over the next 2 quarters. So all very positive across a number of their sites. But these are some of pretty big sites that they're managing all sort of like at the same time.
Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on there. TML Group is the one that did the feasibility study for this Tier 3 data center. So it'll be interesting to see as other companies start to employ some of these contractors. I guess similar to the Morgan Stanley approach with IREN, Anthony. Now these companies are getting expert opinions in to really value and understand what they're sitting on in terms of their assets. Now, the next one I wanted to talk about is CIFR. They gave an excellent picture of their Black Pearl site in this update, Anthony, looking very majestic on the horizon there. They came out with 155 Bitcoin in the month for September mined. The big number that stood out for me is the number of Bitcoin sold, 923 Bitcoin. So a big portion of their HODL continuing to hold 1,512, but a good chunk, around 40% of the total Bitcoin they held being sold in month. Can you walk us through some of the highlights from CIFR?
Yeah, so again, monthly operating hash rate 9.3, Bitcoin mined 155. And yeah, they did sell a lot of Bitcoin, 123, and that to me sounds like it's part of the acquisition of the 300 megawatt Barber Lake site. So maybe some of that Bitcoin being used to seal that deal, because that was closed in September itself. They haven't indicated what the Bitcoin was used for, but I would imagine when they're announcing that sort of deal in the same month, then some of the Bitcoin was used, so that may be a exchange for cash and then a cash transaction to purchase that site, and that's potentially a site that's going to be used ideally for HPC hosting. So very positive from CIFR. They, like Riot, they utilize an energy strategy within Texas itself. And this is September is the last month of the 4CP program, and the 4CP program is really the 4 warmest months of the year, where miners are required to curtail for short periods of time each day to help the domestic demand, and that will be June, July, August, and September. Those are the 4 warmest months in Texas. This year has been slightly, in terms of the grid itself, there hasn't been the strain as there was in previous years. And so, in terms of where miners are required to curtail energy and receive a benefit from that due to demand response credits or by power sales themselves, if they've got a PPA, can send back to the grid, those amounts this year are nowhere near what the miners were earning in 2023. We've just seen a number of other updates today from miners also in Texas, and we'll come on to Rights in a second to explain that a bit further. But yeah, I mean, CIFR, they're growing this year, but significant growth for them will happen in 2025, as you've already articulated to. The Black Pearl site comes online, and that takes them closer up there to 40 exahash next year. So looking to get to, I think it's about 13 exahash by the end of the year, and then up to 40 next year. So big developments for CIFR in 2025, and we can see the start of that now from the pictures they've put on their update, with a nice sunset there.
A beautiful sunset, Anthony. Now, interestingly enough, CleanSpark's the one we're going to talk about next, Anthony. Month-end hash rate 27.6. They came out with 493 Bitcoin. But interestingly enough, CleanSpark had a lot of their operational facilities impacted by this recent natural disaster or hurricane in the United States. And this is something I've started to think about in Texas and West Texas as well, Anthony. There's so much mining concentrated in this one state. If there ever were to be a big natural disaster, a fire, a tornado, whatever the case is, earthquake, it could have significant impacts. Now, in the case of CleanSpark, it appears most of their facilities, I think all of them, are now back online. They've done a great job really supporting the communities in which they operate. I know Matt Schultz and Zach are both very passionate about partnering with these communities, and they've even done some volunteering and supporting of those cleanup efforts. So glad to hear everyone's safe, glad to hear everything's okay. And now let's talk about some of the highlights here.
Yeah, so you're quite right. Most of their sites have now been restored, where power's been restored. There's just one site, a 45 megawatt site, and that should be coming on in the next few days. But yeah, the big story for them is getting 27.6 month-end operational hash rate, getting well on the way to their trajectory for the end of the year of 37 exahash, so just over another 9.4 exahash to achieve. And the rate some of these miners are doing that on a monthly basis, that won't come as too much of a big deal for CleanSpark to do. So in terms of mining itself, 493 Bitcoin mine. That takes the annual total year to date up to 5,079. If you look at the period from October, if you look at the annual period, so their accounts are from October the 1st through to September the 30th. So this quarter is their Q4, so we won't see their results come out till probably in December this year, because miners get miners with the accounts, the final accounts, they get a little bit extra time to deliver those because they have to be audited. But if you look at the last 12 months, they've produced 7,098 Bitcoin. Now, in terms of HODL, again, they're hodling literally all their Bitcoin that they mine. There's a small element that goes to salary and remuneration for some of the directors. But the holdings, as at 30th of September, were 8,049. So they're fastly approaching the amount that Hut 8 have in their treasury. And then there's just Riot and Marathon who have got higher HODL amounts. So currently in fourth place. The fleet efficiency is under 22 for the first time, so 21.94. It's not as high as Bitfarms at 21 or as IREN, which was, I think, 18, I think going down to 17, but still probably the third best fleet efficiency of the public miners as we speak at the moment. And yeah, it's another solid update. I mean, we don't talk enough about CleanSpark in terms of that. They put out good updates month by month, and this is another good update for September. Bear in mind that they've had issues with the storms with Hurricane Helena during that period, and still managed to deliver a good Bitcoin total.
That's what I was going to say, Anthony. In terms of consistency, not even a hurricane can stop these guys from mining Bitcoin. So again, glad to hear everything's okay and everyone's safe. And again, a strong month considering the situation. Now, another company that had a great performance in September, Marathon, over 700 Bitcoin. So 705 Bitcoin. And the HODL here, Anthony, nearing in on 27,000. So they're at 26,842 Bitcoin. So essentially every $1,000 Bitcoin moves up or down is about a $27 million impact to Marathon's balance sheet, which is just mind-blowing considering the volatility of Bitcoin. Marathon, strong performance in the month. What are your thoughts here?
Yes, it was a good performance by Marathon in terms of what they produce with the exahash. So they're now operating at 36.9 exahash. They actually achieved that figure in at the end of the previous month, end of August, so that they've delivered that amount throughout the month of September, producing 705 Bitcoin from all their sites, except the ones where they have they don't include the Bitcoin mined in their joint venture sites. So if you look at the likes of Paraguay and Abu Dhabi, the Bitcoin mined in those two joint ventures aren't including the total. So still a good total from their own hash rate. And they've increased the current Bitcoin hodl to 26,842. Now, for the sharper people of you, that amount of Bitcoin mined added to last month's total, there's a gap of, I think, about 192. So it looks like they've been buying even more Bitcoin since their last purchase, which was during the month of August, where they bought a significant amount of Bitcoin, having raised, I think, close to $300 million with convertible notes. So they utilized the sort of like the micro strategy, Bitcoin strategy, and converted that into Bitcoin. And it looks like we've seen another purchase again during the month of September to even get that higher. And if we look at Marathon now, that total, they're over 16,000 Bitcoin more than the nearest Bitcoin miner. So if you were to add the likes of Riot, Hut, and maybe even CleanSpark together, you're going to get close to the amount that Marathon have got there. So head and shoulders in terms of hodl. And let's see if that strategy plays out. But in terms of daily rate mining in September, it was an increase of about 8% on what they were mining in August. So again, the hash rates increased, the Bitcoin per day's increased, a good total, and all hodled. So yeah, positive update for Marathon.
Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. It sure was. I was really happy with that one. We both hold shares of Marathon and really trying to adopt that micro strategy approach or balance sheet approach. It'll be interesting to see if they start to receive that same premium that Michael Saylor's able to on his hodl, or if the market sees them as fundamentally different given the mining operation. So that's one to watch, Anthony. Another one to watch, Riot Platforms. Now we have Jason coming on in a couple of hours' time, so we can talk in detail about the numbers there. But the one that stood out for me, and obviously you as well, 35% increase month over month in operational hash rate. So just shy of 20, sitting at 19 and a half in terms of their operating hash rate, Anthony. Very strong showing. Still a number of exahash offline. If you look at their total deployed hash rate, 28.2, but definitely moving in the right direction.
So yeah, great update from Riot, and really pleased with the operational hash rate. I think you remember on a couple of podcasts this month, I've been talking about the expectation that the operational rate would increase closer to 20. The AMP that was down there, it's at 19.5. You can see where that hash rate's been deployed. So in actually where Bitcoin miners are plugged in, if you look at Rockdale, it's now at 15 exahash. Corsicana is at 11.9. Now that tells me that building B1 has been energized in full. And then they've also got 1.3 at the Kentucky site, which was former block mining sites. And block mining, as we know, are part of the Riot family now. But in terms of operating hash rate, so this is the average hash rate that they achieve at each of those sites, was still quite low on the Rockdale facility there. So 9.7 of 15 being achieved. Corsicana, yes, you'd expect you won't be able to get the whole amount of that increase because that increase would have taken part during the month, and therefore, you'd be looking more of an average between 7.6 and 11.9. They actually achieved 8.6 as an average. And then at Kentucky, they're pretty much getting what's installed there. So 1.2 from a total of 1.3. So that's pretty much nearly all the hash rate at there. Now, what we should expect to see in the month of October, as the weather cools and there's less requirement to curtail, we should see the operational hash rate for Corsicana and for Rockdale. Corsicana will increase because we'll have a full month utilizing building B1, but Rockdale is where they have the PPA agreement for their power, so they have a fixed power agreement there, and they've been able to utilize the curtailment of that power and selling it back to the grid. No longer will that be happening, so we should expect to see better Bitcoin production results from Rockdale, and we'll certainly be sort of teasing that from Jason on the podcast today as we discuss this update along with their strategy to get to 36 exahash by the end of the year. Looking at power credits for the month of September, if we look at September last year, they achieved 13.4 million. This year, total power credits were 2.2 million, so a massive difference. And we knew that was sort of going to be the case when IREN backed out of its hedge back in beginning of August, because the power or the use of power during that hot month of July was nowhere near where the expectation was going into that hedge, and therefore demand for power in Texas has been a lot lower than it was in previous years, therefore keeping the price of power relatively low. And as you can see from the market cost, so Corsicana is using market rates of power, they're able to achieve 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour in September, which is a reduction from 3.9 cents that they were able to achieve in August. Now, bear in mind, Rockdale works on a PPA, and they weren't able to get as much of a reduction in the power there because they weren't able to utilize the power credits or demand response credits as they had in previous cycles or in previous months. So all in power cost at Rockdale, again, 3.5 cents. So if we look at a blended rate for the whole three sites, we're getting about 3.5. So still very, very good rates. Absolutely. Not many other miners in the business can compete at that level there. We haven't got TeraWulfs out yet, but if you look at TeraWulfs, they have a great fee for their nuclear, but the Lake Mariner site is slightly higher, and I think their last month's blended rate was about 4.5 cents. So Riot coming in at 3.5 cents, so that's a good position. Bear in mind, look at September last year, September 2023, they actually had a negative cost of power. So they actually effectively paid to use power last year. It was coming in at minus 0.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you think about that in real terms, it's cost them 4 cents a kilowatt hour more in September 2024 than it did in September 2023. So, but still a very low rate. And at them sort of rates, still able to achieve a reasonably good margin, especially as with all these new machines going in. And we'll quiz Jason on the podcast about the efficiency of his mining fleet, because that's one of the metrics that Riot don't tend to update in their monthly updates. They do, of course, update it in their quarterly earnings updates, but we'll see if Jason can give us an indication of where it is. I think at the last time we recorded it, I think it's at 24.5. And if you think about the amount of new miners that have gone into the facility at Corsicana, we saw that massive increase in miners as they switched on building B1. I would expect that 24.5 to have dropped certainly down to maybe below 23 now. So let's see if Jason can confirm that, or will we have to wait till the earnings release, which should occur probably during the month of November.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Jason can add some color there. And good point you bring up, Anthony, about average operational hash rate versus month end. Take note of that in these reports, you guys. CleanSpark notes month end operating hash rate as opposed to others that maybe do average. So it does make quite a difference as they're scaling up these facilities. Now, Anthony, two other pieces of news, not production related, but still relevant in the mining space. I can go through the Gryphon one and then maybe you can cover Soluna. Got an update again related to personnel in the C-suite from Gryphon. So last week we brought you the news about this change in CEO. This week they've come out and said that the CFO, Sim Salzman, is actually going to decide to stay at the company. So this is obviously a great development for Gryphon, someone who's experienced, knows the balance sheet, knows the business inside out. It does raise the question whether or not there was some sort of a dispute with Rob in the CEO position or not. But nonetheless, CFO is staying in the company. And they also came out reiterating their four-pronged strategy, which I haven't seen myself before. So I did want to bring this one up. First is pursuing that dual prong growth strategy, targeting organic revenue expansion and strategic M&A. When Rob came on at the start of the year, he said they had a target of 10, more realistically 6 exahash. So still quite a bit of work to be done there in terms of growth, whether that's organic and M&A. The second point is leveraging their competitive advantage in energy costs. We just talked about that competitive energy acquisition they made recently, helping their portfolio, bringing that average energy price down. The third point they highlight, Anthony, is maintaining a robust capital structure balance sheet to support those growth initiatives. So obviously retaining the CFO or SIM in that position is going to support that pillar. And then finally, cultivating a high performance management team to execute on this vision. And that's exactly what we've seen with the appointment of this CEO and the retention of this CFO. So a lot going on at Gryphon. We're looking forward to having the new CEO on for an update and give us an overview of his vision. And with that being said, I'll pass it over for Soluna, Anthony.
Yes, so Soluna made an announcement today that they've reached agreement with convertible note holders and Series B preferred stockholder. These agreements will effectively give them access to 25 million of standby equity purchase agreement, a SEPA, with the Yorkville Advisory Global LP. Soluna will prepay the remaining convertible notes and they'll waive the rights to SEPA participation and adjust warrants and conversion prices. And then effectively this funding itself will reduce the debt. It will also support their AI operations and advance some of the key products that we've talked about in the podcast over the last few months, including the data center development and expansion plans. So they've got a number of projects on the go at the moment, and this amount of funding here will sort of like give them some space. So they've got the build out of the project Grace, which is a sort of like 2 megawatt AI data center that can accelerate the development of Project Cathy, which is 166 megawatt project. And the one we talked about recently was the Project Rosa project, which is 187 megawatts. And aligned to that, they'll complete the acquisition of new sites for up to 20 megawatts of additional AI data centers for its co-location business. But yeah, another good update from Soluna today. Again, we've talked about them numerous times. We've had John on the podcast, 4 or 5 times this year. Always gives us a great update. And now what they're doing now is showing us that they can deliver on some of these projects. So looking at various ways to raise capital, but this one also is getting rid of some of the probably the more expensive debt on the balance sheet at the same time. So it gives them some maneuverability going forward.
It sure does. And speaking of interviews, we've got John, I think, going to be booked in on the 7th of November, Anthony, to come give us an update. In addition to that, we've got Jason this afternoon. Compass Mining today as well will release in the next few days. We've got Hut 8 on the 10th of October, so Thursday next week. And then Bit Digital the following Tuesday on the 15th. Now, we have added a calendar portion on the Power Mining Analysis website. Not only shows you upcoming interviews, but also earnings dates for these companies as well. So make sure you check that out. Get in any questions you want because all of our questions do come from viewers themselves. So Anthony, a lot going on in the market today. We're looking forward to the Riot interview in a few hours. You guys let us know your thoughts on production from last month, how you're feeling about the miner segment overall. and of course, Miner Madness, your picks and how they compare to the guest analyst picks that we listed yesterday. Anthony, thanks so much. We'll see you back here in a couple hours.